Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome for the first time. If you don't know me, my name is Angela and I find my paradise through reading. And today I am doing a book haul video. These are all of the books that I have acquired throughout the month of October, and there is a stack. Let me see. Whoa, my gosh. Don't ask me what I've been up to. Oh my gosh. And don't mind if you hear drilling. It is my person downstairs. He is putting a heater in the dog's room. So he's installing that and he's drilling and stuff. So I'm up in our room trying to hopefully get as far away from the noise as possible. But I am going to go through some of these books that I have acquired, maybe where I acquired them from, and I'll probably read a lot of the blurbs on the back because some of these I've kind of heard of but don't really know what they're about. So I'll just do you guys a favor and read what's on the back, okay? So the first one is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Okay. This says, England 1580, the Black Death creeps across the land, an ominous threat, infecting the healthy, the sick, the old, and the young alike. The end of days is near, but life always goes on. A young Latin tutor, penniless and bullied by a violent father, falls in love with an extraordinary, eccentric young woman. Agnes is a wild creature who walks her family's land with a falcon on her glove and is known throughout the countryside for her unusual gifts as a healer, understanding plants and potions better than she does people. Once she settles with her husband on Henley Street in Stratford-upon-Avon, she becomes a fiercely protective mother and a steadfast centrifugal force in the life of her young husband, whose career on the London stage is just taking off when his beloved young son succumbs to sudden fever. Okay, that's Hamnet. Then we have The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. That's pretty. Okay. This one says, in a quiet suburb of Detroit, the five Lisbon sisters, beautiful, eccentric, and obsessively watched by the neighborhood boys, commit suicide one by one over the course of a single year. As the boys observe them from afar, transfixed, they piece together the mystery of the family's fatal melancholy in this hypnotic and unforgettable novel of adolescent love, disquiet, and death. Jeffrey Eugenides, I don't know how to say his last name, sorry, evokes the emotions of youth with haunting sensitivity and dark humor and creates a coming-of-age story unlike any of our time. So, Virgin Suicides, I guess. You know, these five beautiful sisters commit suicide one by one, and we figure out what happens, I guess, or what's been going on. Then we have Heaven Official's Blessing by Tianwan Sifu or Mo Xiang Tong Shu. I don't know which one is the author, but this is not manga. But there are some illustrations in here. And I don't know. Look at this. All right, on the back it says, a god fallen, a ghost risen. Born the crown prince of a prosperous kingdom, Shi Lian was renowned for his beauty, strength, and purity. His years of dedicated study and noble deeds allowed him to ascend to godhood. But those who rise may also fall, and fall he does, cast from the heavens and banished to the world below. 800 years after his mortal life, Shi Lian has ascended to godhood for the third time. What does he keep doing? To get, angering most of the gods in the process. To repay his debts, he is sent to the mortal realm to hunt down violent ghosts and troublemaking spirits who prey on the living. Along his travels, he meets the fascinating and brilliant San Lang, a young man with whom he feels an instant connection. Yet San Lang is clearly more than he appears. What mysteries lie behind that carefree smile? All right, that sounds like a lot of fun. So that's Heaven Official's blessing. Okay. Oh, let me see. I didn't say. So far, these three I bought at Barnes & Noble. I was shopping. I did quite a bit of shopping at Barnes & Noble this last month. Okay. This one I bought at my library's in-house discounted used bookstore. So this is Book Nerd, and this is so cute. This is by Holly McGuire. And it just has these just beautiful, beautiful illustrations. Anybody who's like me, who just loves books, obsesses over books, just everything books, this is so cute and so pretty. Look, seasonal bookworms. It says, time I spend organizing my piles and stacks, in a bookstore just browsing, thinking about what to read next, reading, crushing on a lead character, what your bookshelves say about you. When you carry a good book with you, it's like having a good friend by your side. It has all these just gorgeous little quotes. It's got information about famous libraries around the world. This book is so freaking adorable. I love it so much. And at the end, it had some bookmarks that you could tear out, which I did. It's just, oh my gosh, this book is so cute and just absolutely adorable. So that is that. Oh my goodness, I loved it. Okay, then this is Mr. Lemoncello's Library by Chris Grabenstein. Okay, if you guys were with me when I was camping earlier in the month of October, there was a little free library in the campground, and this book was in there. On the back it says, when Kyle learns that the world's most famous game maker has designed the town's new library and is having an invitation-only lock-in on the first night, he is determined to be there. But the tricky part isn't getting into the library, it's getting out. Kyle's going to need all his smarts because a good roll of the dice or lucky draw of the cards is not enough to win in Mr. Lemoncello's library. So there's that. Okay, these two I ordered on Amazon. The plastic's still on this one. But these were my colleague's like two most highly recommended favorite books. She said I have to read them. So I ordered them both. She actually recommended them a couple years ago. I think it was like during the lockdown in 2020. And they've been in my cart for a while, and I finally got around to just getting them. So this is Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, Awakening to Life's Purpose. Oprah Winfrey calls the book a wake-up call for the entire planet, one reader at a time. It helps us to distance ourselves from our egos and to open ourselves to a higher self. It helps us to stop creating our own suffering and obsessing over the past and what the future might be, and to put ourselves in the now. This is the same author of The Power of Now, if you've ever heard of that. So let's see here. With his best-selling spiritual guide, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle inspired millions of readers to discover the freedom and joy of a life lived in the now. In A New Earth, Tolle expands on these powerful ideas to show how transcending our ego-based state of consciousness is not only essential to personal happiness, but also the key to ending conflict and suffering throughout the world. Tolle describes how our attachment to the ego creates the dysfunction that leads to anger, jealousy, and unhappiness, and shows readers how to awaken to a new state of consciousness and follow the path to a truly fulfilling existence. Sounds interesting? So that's that. I'm hoping to get to that this month, but I'm not sure. All right, then we have Women Who Run with the Wolves, Contacting the Power of the Wild Woman by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. All right, Women Who Run with the Wolves. All right, what does this say? A gift of profound wisdom, insight, and love, an oracle from one who knows. And that's a blurb from Alice Walker. So this says, Women Who Run with the Wolves is a seminal work on the inner life of women, a creation of poetry and power. It began a revolution and continues to transform the lives of millions around the world. Clarissa Pinkola Estes reveals how within every woman there lives a wild woman, filled with passionate creativity and ageless knowing, but repressed for centuries by a value system that trivializes emotional truth, intuitive wisdom, and instinctual self-confidence. Dr. Estes' enriching bestseller shows how, through the interpretation of story and her psychological commentary, we can reclaim and rejoice in our true feminine power, how we can awaken within the depths of our souls one who is both magic and medicine. Sounds good. And I haven't opened this. Let me take the plastic off. I just wasn't sure what the inside it looks like. Somewhat like heavy reading. I thought there might be like a lot of their illustrations or charts or I don't know what, maybe big writing, but no, it's going to take some time. It's about 500 pages long, but from what she just went on and on and on about how fantastic this book was and how it really changed her life and how she thought about so many things. I'm definitely going to read this and see how it goes. Okay. Then I got this one. I think, did I get the rest? Mostly, I think. So I got The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, and I bought this at Barnes & Noble. Okay, this is part of the Lord of the Rings. Bilbo Baggins is a hobbit who enjoys a comfortable, unambitious life, rarely traveling any further than his pantry or cellar. But his contentment is disturbed when the wizard Gandalf and a company of dwarves arrive on his doorstep one day to whisk him away on an adventure. They have launched a plot to raid the treasure hoard guarded by Smaug the Magnificent, a large and very dangerous dragon. Bilbo reluctantly joins their quest, unaware that on his journey to the Lonely Mountain, he will encounter both a magic ring and a frightening creature known as Gollum. So I hear so much about The Hobbit, and this is like one of like the top cozy reads, I guess. Fantasy, and it's just following these hobbits that are just so, I don't want to say like unassuming, but they just have like just this really simple kind of sweet way of life. And the reason I got this book, I'll tell you after I go through my book hauls. But definitely I got this for a really good reason, other than that everybody said that this is such a precious book and so fun to read and a really, really cozy one. I'm really hoping to read that soon. I have so much to read though. Okay, then we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. Okay, this was a book I've seen all over the place on BookTube, BookTok, Barnes & Noble, every bookstore. I mean, it's Babel, Babel, Babel. Okay, is this like Dark Academia? I don't remember. This is a really nice copy. It's got the nice decoed edges. Let's see what it says. 1828, Robin Swift, orphaned by cholera in Canton, is brought to London by the mysterious Professor Lovell. There, Robin trains for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he'll enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. The tower and its students are the world's center for translation, and more importantly, magic. Silverworking, the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation using enchanted silver bars, has made the British unparalleled in power as the arcane craft serves the empire's quest for colonization. For Robin, Oxford is a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. But knowledge obeys power, and as a Chinese boy raised in Britain, he realizes serving Babel means betraying his motherland. As his studies progress, Robin finds himself caught between Babel and the shadowy Hermes Society, an organization dedicated to stopping imperial expansion. When Britain pursues an unjust war with China over silver and opium, Robin must decide. Can powerful institutions be changed from within, or does revolution always require violence? Okay. Wow. Rebecca F. Kwang. Here is the author, and I did not know that she was also, do I have this? No, I had this book in my hand, The Poppy War. I was going to get The Poppy War, and then it was like, oh, it's part of a trilogy, and I was like, well, do I feel like buying all 3 books, or should I buy one? And so I couldn't decide right on the spot, so I didn't get it, but I didn't know it was the same author, so at least I got one of her books that day. Then I have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. How cute. Again, deckled edges, really cute, very pretty book. So this is Cambridge professor Emily Wilde is good at many things. She is the foremost expert on fairies. She is a genius scholar and a meticulous researcher who is writing the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore. But Emily Wilde is not good at people. She could never make small talk at a party or even get invited to one. And she prefers the company of her books, her dog Shadow, and the fair folk to other people. So when she arrives in the hardscrabble village of Hrathvic, whatever, Emily has no intention of befriending the gruff townsfolk. Nor does she care to spend time with another new arrival, her dashing and insufferably handsome academic rival, Wendell Bambleby, who manages to charm the townsfolk, muddle Emily's research, and utterly confound and frustrate her. But as Emily gets closer and closer to uncovering the secrets of the hidden ones, the most elusive of all fairies, lurking in the shadowy forest outside the town, she also finds herself on the trail of another mystery. Who is Wendell Bambleby, and what does he really want? To find the answer, she'll have to unlock the greatest mystery of all, her own heart. Doesn't that sound like a sweet, fun book? Oh, boy. Enemies to lovers, maybe? I don't know. It seems like it. So that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This I also bought at Barnes & Noble. This one I also bought at Barnes & Noble. And I don't know what it is with the deckled edges, but this is another one. This cover just really stood out to me. 10,000 Doors of January. Look how pretty that is. And it's got like a really soft, buttery cover. So I was just like, oh, that's so pretty. So I picked it up. And let's see. As the ward of the wealthy Mr. Locke, January Scholar feels little different from the artifacts that decorate his sprawling mansion. Carefully maintained, largely ignored, and utterly out of place. But when she finds a strange book, one that tells a tale of secret doors, of love, adventure, and danger, for the first time, January realizes she can escape her story and sneak into someone else's. So that is 10,000 Doors of January, and this is by Alex E. Harrow. We're getting there. Okay. The True Love Bookshop. This is by Annie Raines. Okay. And obviously, you guys know how I love books about books. And I saw this at my library's used bookstore, and I got this. And let's see what this says. For Tess Lane, owning Lakeside Books is a dream come true. But it's the weekly book clubs she hosts for the women in town that Tess enjoys the most. The gatherings have been her lifeline over the past 3 years since her husband's mysterious death. Tess has tried to move on, but when River Harrison shows up on her doorstep, all her lingering questions come rushing back. River, a former Marine turned private investigator, was her husband's best friend, and seeing him again is a reminder of everything Tess lost. At first, she tries to ignore him, but Tess comes to realize that this is her chance, once and for all, to find the answers that have troubled her for years. With the support of her friends, Tess joins River on a journey of discovery that leads them to the edges of Somerset Lake and on a road trip down the Carolina coast. Although their adventure isn't always easy, Tess starts to find the joy in life again. But when secrets surrounding her husband's death are finally revealed, can Tess find it in her heart to forgive the mistakes of the past and maybe even open herself up to love again? Okay, The True Love Bookshop by Annie Raines. Okay, this one, The Golden Notebook by Doris Lessing, perennial classics. And this I got from a little free library. Let's see. Does this say what it's about? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I guess this is about, okay. Who's this? Doris Lessing. Okay. Anna is a writer, author of one very successful novel who now keeps 4 notebooks. In one, with a black cover, she reviews the African experience of her earlier years. In a red one, she records her political life, her disillusionment with communism. In a yellow one, she writes a novel in which the heroine relives part of her own experience. And in a blue one, she keeps a personal diary. Finally, in love with an American writer and threatened with insanity, Anna tries to bring the threads of all 4 books together in a golden notebook. Okay. So I thought this looked like a very interesting, it had like a lot of no ordinary work of fiction. The technique, in a word, is brilliant. The most absorbing and exciting piece of new fiction I have read in a decade. It moves with the beat of our time, and it is true. The New York Times Book Review says The Golden Notebook is Doris Lessing's most important work and has left its mark upon the ideas and feelings of a whole generation of women. So that's The Golden Notebook. Oh, I hope this doesn't fall over. Okay. Then I got Crypted Club by Sarah Anderson. And I got this because I was just curious about her other works. I bought this at, actually ordered this from Amazon. And one of her other books, Fangs, which is a graphic novel of where this young, but she's a young woman in vampire standards, I guess. She's probably like a couple 100 years old. But anyway, she's in love with a werewolf, and it's just the sweetest graphic novel. And I loved it so much. So I got Crypted Club because I was curious about Sarah Anderson's other works. And so it's definitely completely different than what Fangs was. And I did go through this whole book, and it's just basically aliens, monsters, the chupacabra, this Bigfoot, and it's just these monsters just kind of just being silly. Pretty much you have like Slender Man, and they're just funny. It was cute. So that's Cryptic Club. I mean, I wouldn't buy it again, I guess. Like, I would have been fine sitting in the bookstore and just like going through it and been like, oh, okay, yeah, that was cute. But I have it. I'll probably unhaul this either at a little free library or let my daughter go through this and she can unhaul it at her little free library. Okay. Then, okay, we have Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert T. Kiyosaki. Now, I recently, I guess last month in October, I read his other book, which was The Cash Flow Quadrant. And I read the cash flow quadrant because I remember reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad so many years ago. And I thought it was fantastic. I really, really love the advice that he gives in this book. And so when I found out that cash flow quadrant was by the same author, I bought that. But I no longer had my own copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I went and I ordered it from Amazon. And I do plan to reread it again because I feel like it's been like 20 years since I read it. So that's that. I don't know. From what I remember, I would absolutely recommend this book. It must have had some kind of impact for me to still, this many years later, remember it and want to read it again. So that's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Boom. Last one we have, I got this from Barnes & Noble, Bookshops and Bone Dust. Okay, I got this. This is by Travis Baldree. This is a fantasy, probably like very low stakes fantasy like the first book. I got this because I read, Cafe. What's it? Oh my gosh. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. And it was such a cozy read. It was so sweet. It was such a low stakes fantasy. And I just, oh my gosh. So here we have pretty much the same idea, I think. So in Legends and Lattes, there's this orc who has this dream of opening up her own coffee shop, her own little cafe. And it's just basically her putting together a team and meeting people and finding a place and, you know, renovating this old stable and turning it into this cafe. And it's just the best. So let me see what this one is about. Viv is a young battle-hungry orc, but her career with the notorious mercenary company Rackham's Ravens isn't going as planned. Wounded during the hunt for a powerful necromancer, she's packed off against her will to recuperate in the sleepy beach town of Merk, so far from the action that she worries she'll never be able to return to it. What's a thwarted soldier of fortune to do? Spending her hours at a beleaguered bookshop in the company of its foul-mouthed proprietor is the last thing Viv would have predicted, but it may be both exactly what she needs and the seed of changes she couldn't possibly imagine. Still, adventure isn't all that far away. A suspicious traveler in gray, a gnome with a chip on her shoulder, a summer fling, and an improbable number of skeletons prove Merk to be more eventful than Viv could have ever expected. I hope you understand the way I read that. Let's see. Still, adventure isn't all that far away. A suspicious traveler in gray, a gnome with a chip on her shoulder, a summer fling, and an improbable number of skeletons prove Merk to be more eventful than Viv could have ever expected. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense now. Because sometimes when I'm reading out loud, everything just kind of blurbs together, and I'm like, it makes sense in my head. Well, what does it say? Oh, it has something on the inside. Let's see what this says. Every book is a little mirror, and sometimes you look into it and see someone else looking back. Oh, I think I'm going to like this. I think I'm going to like this. Oh my gosh, I got so many books. I don't even know where to start. Oh my gosh. And I still have like hundreds that I've purchased throughout the year that are still unread. It's a good problem to have. I am not complaining. I'm not. Anyway, so I am going to give you a reading update. Okay. I have 4 books going on at the moment. So I have these 4 that I'm reading. I am 1,100 pages into Les Miserabl by Victor Hugo. Okay, look at this. Look at this beast. Look at this beast. Jeez. So, oh my God. All right, this book is 1,300 pages long. So I have about 200 pages left here. And here's what I'm going to say about this. The actual story part of this book, okay, this is obviously the unabridged version of Les Miserables. The actual story part of this book can probably fit into like 300 pages. And I've actually looked up abridged versions of this book to see how many pages, and they are about 300, 320 pages long. So I was like on point. The other 1,000 pages of this nonsense, okay, has seemingly nothing to do with the story. A lot of, oh my gosh, it's just got so much information. It's a lot of history, a lot about the history of France, battles, political issues, socioeconomic issues. I mean, you can go on. And so I ended up getting the audiobook because I can't just sit here and spend days and days reading about all the details about the Battle of Waterloo and what the weather conditions were, how many soldiers, how many generals, what the terrain was like, what people were eating, what people were doing, what the trees look like, what the houses look like, ditches, what this went on for, I don't remember how long, but oh my gosh, like 100 pages. Anyways, so anytime I would get to like a part where it was just like going on and on, like it would talk about this convent, okay? It went on and on about the sisters that went into this, that were part of this convent like 100 or so years ago, and what their practices were and how they came to be. But it just went on and on and on and on. Had nothing to do with the story. Honestly, I swear it didn't. And I would turn on the audiobook whenever I came to chapters like that I feel like the author was just going on this whole, I don't want to say he was like going on a tangent, because a lot of the things that he talks about I know were very, very serious and very important, and this book is very important. But yeah, like he would go into these lectures, he would just go on and on and on and on, just completely leave the story. And so I would put my headphones on, boom, and just listen to it for hours or days until I would hear that we were like back into the story again, and it would go back to the characters finally, and then I would pick up the book. So, and I love big books, and I love classics, and the story itself is phenomenal. The story and the characters are amazing, so amazing, and I would so reread it, the abridged version. I will never read this again. All of this is, none of this is necessary. 1,000 pages of this is not necessary. And if you've ever read Les Miserables, the unabridged version, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's just way too much detail and way too much history and way too much of everything that has nothing to do with the story. So that's where I'm at. I will be finishing this book this month, thank God, and I can check it off of my 100 greatest books ever written list. The story itself, I am going to get another copy of this, the abridged version, to read at another time, because the story is great. The story is crazy. It's so crazy. Oh my God. Okay. Then I am reading C.S. Lewis, Out of the Silent Planet. This is part of C.S. Lewis's space trilogy, and I got this at the thrift shop. Book 1 and 2 of this trilogy were at the thrift shop, and I was like really surprised because I didn't know C.S. Lewis had a space trilogy. He is the author of the Chronicles of Narnia, and I just love those books. I love his other book, Mere Christianity. I love his writing. And so I was very curious about this, and I was like, I'm going to read this. And so I've been reading it little at a time, and there's something about C.S. Lewis's writing. And I keep trying to put my finger on why I love his writing so much. And maybe it's just the way he describes things in a way that I would have never thought. And so this is basically this guy kind of gets kidnapped and taken to another planet, basically. And so I think he's, you know, running away from his captors, and he's on this strange planet, and that's all I know. But so here's like an example of his writing. And so they just arrive at this planet. He gets off the ship, and he's kind of, this is like his first impression. He's looking around. And he says, he saw nothing but colors that refused to form themselves into things. Moreover, he knew nothing yet well enough to see it. You cannot see things till you know roughly what they are. His first impression was of a bright, pale world, a watercolor world out of a child's paint box. A moment later, he recognized the flat belt of light blue as a sheet of water, or of something like water, which came nearly to his feet. Okay. So I just love how he says, like, he knew nothing yet well enough to see it. You cannot see things till you know roughly what they are. So when I read that, it was interesting because I was just like, it really imprinted on me and made me feel like, yeah, like, imagine you're in this planet, you don't know what nothing is. Everything looks completely different. You have all these pastel colors, and yeah, that would mess with your eyes, right? And your brain, because you're trying to figure out what are you really seeing. And when he talks about the water, I thought it was interesting too, the way he's trying to figure out what's wrong with this water. He says, he also came little by little to the conclusion that the water was not merely blue in certain lights like terrestrial water, but really blue. There was something about its behavior under the very gentle breeze which puzzled him. Something wrong or unnatural about the waves. For one thing, they were too big for such a wind, but that was not the whole secret. They reminded him somehow of the water that he had seen shooting up under the impact of shells in pictures of naval battles. Then suddenly realization came to him. They were the wrong shape, out of drawing, far too high for their length, too narrow at the base, too steep in the sides. So, and if you see the picture, and you see like the waves, like how they're like just really tall and pointy and just weird looking. So yeah, like he's looking at the water and trying to figure out why the water looks funny. Like what's different about these waves? Like what's going on? There's like a very gentle breeze. And, you know, he's trying to put two and two together. I just love the way he writes. I really love C.S. Lewis. So I am enjoying the story so far. It's fun. Okay, then I have The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George. Okay, this is about a man who has this long boat, like this boathouse. I think it's on the Seine in Paris, and it's a bookshop. And he calls it the literary apothecary because he prescribes certain books to people to help. There are the dogs. It helps to cure or heal them with certain symptoms that they're having, if they're sad, if they're whatever. So he talks to his customers. He gets a feeling of what they're going through and what kind of books will help them. So then he goes on this journey to kind of heal his heart because he had a lost love, and he's just trying to, I guess, start life over again, kind of, or just trying to heal from what he went through. And it's just, I'm enjoying this so far. I'm about halfway through, and that's the Little Pair book. And this is by, did I say, Nina George. The last one, the most important, and I'll tell you why. I finished my 99th book, and I went through my bookshelves, and that's one of the reasons I was at Barnes & Noble, and I ended up buying a whole bunch of books. I was really trying to figure out, what did I want to be my 100th book of 2023? And I just wanted it to be epic. I wanted it to be something fun. I wanted it to be something that would like take me out and put me in another world, another experience, something that I can say like, oh my gosh, I read that book, something that I've been meaning to read for like so long, or I've heard of for such a long time. So I was really racking my brain about, what do I want to be my 100th book? And so I've been, going to the bookstores. I've been going through my TBRs. I've been going through my Amazon wish list. I've been going through my bookshelves at home. I'm like, it has to be epic. Has to be epic. And so, drum roll. What can be more epic, I guess, than The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien? Okay, this is the first book in the Lord of the Rings. And I've had this book on my bookshelf, and I've been meaning to read it, and I was like, that's an epic. This is a whole nother world. This should be a really fun book. This is just famous. It's classic. I've watched the movie before. And I'm just like, let's do it. Let's do it. So I started reading this. And I am about a quarter, because this is about 500 pages. And I am 186 pages into this. And here are my thoughts so far. I'm having such a good time. And I know it's not supposed to be like a low stakes kind of fantasy. Right now, it feels like it. Of course, I'm only 200 pages into it, but at this point, it is these hobbits. You have Frodo and Pippin and Sam and Merry, and you have these 4 hobbits that have never left the Shire, where the hobbits live. They've never left. They've never traveled. They don't go on adventures. They're very simple, happy little hobbity folks. And so Frodo is given this ring by his uncle, who just gives him this ring, like disappears. And this ring is very powerful. This big time evil person is trying to get this ring back, his ring back, so he can like rule the world and destroy everything or whatever. So you have these 4 hobbits that are so sweet, and they have to leave the Shire and go on this journey. And so they're not magical. They don't have magic powers. They're not warriors or adventurers. So they're just so sweet, and they get lost, and they don't know what they're doing. And anytime like these dark riders who are like working for Sauron, like they're looking for Frodo and looking for this ring. And so anytime they come across danger, they're like running to a ditch, and they're hiding, and they're scared, and just so sweet. I just love them. They're just so cute. And I know things get like more and more serious. We're going to get into, the elves and the dwarves are going to come into this, and there are going to be some battles with some orcs and things like that. So I know it gets a lot more intense, but at this point, oh my God, it's like a really cozy book. I really look forward to reading this every day, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So that is why I ended up buying The Hobbit. I can see myself buying the other books. I think, is it a trilogy? I think it's a trilogy. And then you have the Lord, or it's the trilogy and like the Hobbit, which is a prequel to this. This is the Hobbit will tell of how Frodo's uncle Bilbo Baggins got that ring, got the ring of power, and how he came across it and how it ended up getting over to Frodo. But I'm reading it. This will be my 100th book. So that's why I'm really taking my time with the other 3 books. I am reading them little by little because I want to make sure, I want to make absolute sure that I finish this book first. And so that I can officially mark this as being my 100th book that I read for 2023. And I'm very happy with my choice. I had it narrowed down to this or Heaven Official's Blessing. I was going to buy Fourth Wing, and I was going to read that one. And then I was considering just finishing Les Miserabl and letting that be my epic 100th book read for 2023. But I just couldn't. There was just something like missing. There was just something I really, really wanted. A very nice, happy feeling. And Les Miserables, let me tell you what, it's not going to give me like happy, cozy, like, oh my gosh, I love that book so much. The story, like I said, is great, but it's got way too much extra stuff that I just am drudging through. So I didn't want that to be my 100th epic, great, fun, special book of 2023. So this is it, and I'm very happy with my choice. Oh my gosh. And I'm glad I'm reading the book because I remember watching the movie and not fully getting the full understanding and the grasp of what was going on. What was the big deal about this ring? What was the problem? Why was the carrier of this ring going through so much? So this book really brings to light a lot of what's happening behind the scenes, what the characters are feeling, what the bearer of the ring is experiencing. So yeah, well, my battery is going to die, so I will leave this. I actually made it through everything I wanted to share with you anyway. So thank you for sticking with me through this long video. I hope you have some like good recommendations from some of these books that I have here, and share with me anything that you would recommend for me to read, something that you haven't heard me mention. That, you know, what is your favorite? What is like your epic favorite book? Do you also have a 100 books to read in 2023 or 100 books challenge? I mean, this is crazy. This has been such a special year, such a special reading year. But all right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you for, again, tuning into my video and watching me and letting me share my favorite books with you. Bye-bye and happy reading.